Hello, Williamson County Republicans. I want to welcome you to your district's Republican County Commission Candidate Forum. This is your opportunity to hear directly from who may represent your interests on the County Commission. The County Commission is the legislative body for Williamson County. They are entrusted with the responsibility to raise funds through taxation and in how that money is then spent. They also appoint replacements to any vacant elected office in Williamson County until the next regularly scheduled general election. There are 24 commissioners, 2 per district, and they serve for a 4-year term. It is important that you understand that when you vote, you will have the opportunity to vote for up to 2 people to represent you. You do not have to vote for 2. You may vote for 1. You may choose to vote for none, or you may write in a candidate. The point is, you should vote for those whom you feel will best represent you. You are not forced to vote for anyone just to fill the ballot. We encourage you to learn more about each candidate, to ask hard questions about issues here in Williamson County, and that you stay engaged after your commissioners are elected. We hope that you will vote, but we ask that you vote informed. Thank you for your time, and now your district's candidates for County Commission.
Hello, and welcome to the Williamson County Republican Party Commissioner Forum. Today I'm talking with Mr. Jeff Goodspeed of District 4, and I'm very pleased to host this forum for you. My name is EJ Haust. I am the owner and founder of GetFoundEverywhere.com and the DFM Agency, which is a small digital firm right here in Williamson County, and also have been on various radio programs both locally and nationally as a guest and a host, so I couldn't be happier to be here with the Williamson County Republican Party. Today in studio we have Mr. Jeff Goodspeed, who will be running for District 4 Commissioner. Commissioner Gregg Lawrence and candidate Michelle McGuire were also offered the opportunity to attend, had replied that they would be here, and unfortunately were unable to make it at the last minute. So we have the full time with Mr. Goodspeed. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here.
So we're going to start with our regular format, just as we've done for all other candidate forums, with a 60-second opening remarks, and then from there we'll go into the question and answer period.
Great. What have I done to get ready for county commissioner? Over the last several years, I've been actively involved in supporting my community by listening to the concerns of my neighbors and surrounding community where they feel unheard. I have helped with researching these issues, and I have stepped up to speak with the county commission and Franklin Boma on these issues. I've gone to the state capitol, spoken to representatives in their office about some of these issues, and let them know what I and my fellow community members are concerned about. I'm not a politician. I'm a retired police sergeant. In my 25-year law enforcement career, I learned the intricacies of how local government works and what it takes to make a change. I ended my law enforcement career supervising the Aero Bureau, where I managed a multi-million-dollar budget and tens of millions of dollars in assets. During that tenure, in that position, I was able to purchase a new helicopter fleet and sell the old one at an overall cost savings of over $7 million, when the city did not know this was even possible. I think outside of the box to find results to better help my community, which is what I'll bring to Williamson County.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we're going to start with our questions. First off, we're going to talk about culture. So here in Williamson County, unfortunately, we have made national news in the last several years regarding some of the things that have been happening in our schools. Democrats have pushed sexuality in all forms on our culture and sadly onto our children. What is your position on the Williamson County School Board, how they've handled the influx of sexuality-driven conversations, flags, books, etc. in recent years? And then give me a vision for how you see that going forward.
Well, again, it is a hot issue, but I think here in this community that we live in, I think the vast majority feels that any of those types of issues should not be brought into the school system. It's not a place for the school system to be handling those types of things. And I think they've done okay. I think they could have done better, but I think they've actually done not too bad in that respect. What I'd like to see, again, is have that type of talk at home. That's not a type of talk to have in the school system, because it's something that needs to be, it's intimate. It's something that you have to have trust in your family and with the people that are actually talking about it. It's something that's about morals and views, and I think that's something that parents are supposed to be doing, not teachers and school districts.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And kind of staying on that same schools mentality, obviously you're going to know as a county commissioner where your responsibilities lie. You know, certainly we have a school board that handles the intricacies of it, but since our county commission has such a big hand specifically in the budgeting of that, it's important that you're aware of what's happening in all of our schools. Williamson County has some of the best schools in the state, and much of the current county debt is due to building new schools to accommodate growth in new locations. There is still talk of building new schools, even though overall student population is dropping. What is your position on building new schools? And if it is to build them, how do you fund them?
Well, I think at this point in time, we really need to take a hard look at what's, as far as students coming in and staying. My wife she retired as assistant superintendent, so I understand that role. I understand what it takes to do that role and what numbers are important. I think right now we have a $1.12 billion debt we don't need to be adding to. Now we do have funds that come out of new homes being built and sold that goes directly to big infrastructure costs and stuff like that. I think using that type of money, it's already designated for that. I think that's great. Reaching into the budget to pull anything else out, then we really need to take a hard look at that because, again, the biggest thing is the debt and trying to work that down, because the last thing, as I've heard knocking on doors, is people don't want their property taxes going up. So I think that's something that's important when we pay 68% of our actual budget goes to schools.
Yeah. A quick follow-up on that, since you're the only one here, it should be a back and forth in 60 seconds to each additional question, but lucky you today. The debt always is an issue, and we always talk about that, but also paying teachers more and kind of managing administrative costs is always a big deal. When the school board comes to you as a commissioner and says, hey, we need more money, the chatter around the office, so to speak, what's your response to that? How do you kind of let them know that maybe we don't need to be spending more money?
It's important to pay teachers, deputies, their value. I can tell you from experience at the police department and with my wife being a principal and an administrator, if you pay well and retain your staff, that lowers your cost. You don't have to train new staff. You don't have to go through a hiring process. All those things cost extra money. So if we can do that, we can get those salaries at that level, that's going to help us in the long run. But at the same time, right now, it's tight. You know, and again, the biggest thing that every constituent out there has to do is help fund schools, but also they pay property taxes. So, yeah, it's going to be a tight fit. I think we need to work on both, and I think the state needs to help with some of that funding.
Okay. Staying on that same thread of debt, Williamson County, like you said, $1.2 billion in debt, despite being such an affluent community, right? Growing in large part due to the new jail, the justice buildings recently approved, and really just infrastructure in general. Obviously, that's one of the more popular topics as we start talking about this election and what it's going to mean. Traffic, all of those things are part of that. What is your take on the infrastructure of Williamson County? What would you see as the future? What would you be happy with there? And then, importantly, do you think that we should be reducing the debt? Some would like to manage, some want to reduce. If so, how would you do that?
I think infrastructure-wise, we really got to be careful, especially in the county, with bringing in new development, because that usually incurs a huge infrastructure cost. New streets, having to redo intersections, bringing out sewer lines, that type of thing. So what we have right now is a little bit of overburdened infrastructure due to those types of developments. So I think we need to rely on what we already have. And if we're going to develop and do that growth, I think it needs to be responsible, and that's how you do responsible growth. You start where the money's already at. And then as far as the debt and related to that, we have to bring it down a little bit, because if you're spending $100 million in working through that debt every year. Again, that's teacher salaries, that's deputy salaries, that's retaining good employees, that's helping our roads in the county. Those are the things that people want fixed.
Yeah, and obviously the follow-up to that is, as far as servicing the debt goes, like you said, it's now $109 million annually. Would you ever propose cutting services or raising taxes? What's your thought on how we reduce that burden?
I think we need to look outside the box. I think a lot of that burden can be reduced by getting some of the state funds that we used to have and that we don't have anymore. When you sell a house, and that you get a tax that it goes straight for selling of that house, and right now it goes to the state. I think that should be brought back to the county. It's a county tax; it needs to be here. Tire tax, same type of thing. It's a tax that should be used for the counties that isn't used that anymore. So I think there are ways out there that we can actually get some of that money that's owed to us and had back to where it should be.
Kind of going along this same thread, right? Because it's such a hot topic, Williamson County is the most affluent county in the state, and for that reason receives 40% less in state reimbursement per child, right? So kind of full circle, like, when we're talking about the debt, we're talking about servicing that debt. We also have to include the fact that we don't get as much from the state as other counties. One way candidates have suggested that we improve the county fiscal issues is to get the state to reimburse Williamson County at the same level. How would you propose to do that?
I think you need to be cooperative with your state representatives, right? I've gone up there, I've talked to them in their office. They're reasonable, they understand it, but they have a budget as well. It just has to be something that you really have to start. You can't do it in 2 months. You have to do it in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years. That's the part of process that you need to do a little give and change for. I think it is possible. I think it's there. I know the administration up there that talks about it wants it to happen, so I think it's possible. But you just have to start that conversation and work together in order to get that to work.
So you mentioned that you have been up to the state capitol, that you talk with it. Would you say that you have a good relationship with our state reps, both Senate and House side? And what kinds of things would you like to see in the future as far as that coordination?
Well, I wouldn't say that they necessarily know me by name yet, or at least by face for sure. Like I said, I've been in there, I've talked to them. But I think it's one of those things that if you're a representative locally, you have to work both ways. You got to reach out and you got to talk to everybody in your district. At the same time, it's your job to move up and talk to those people that affect our own community because of the laws and the things that they do up at Capitol Hill. So yeah, I think it's very important.
Yeah. Another big hot topic these days is the courthouse. Where do you stand on building a new courthouse and kind of the process that we have to go through to get there? What do we do with the old courthouse? Give me your opinions there.
That one's going to be an out-of-the-box one again. I've been to the courthouse. I understand it. I see it. My career was in and out of courthouses, so I understand how they work. I understand how important it is to have a system where detainees get up into the courthouse and it's safe to get back and forth. And there's a cost when you have to transport. And it's a big cost when you have to transport people back and forth to and from a courthouse. So those are things that have to be managed well. And I think it's just a process that you really got to take into account the big picture and not just snap it because, yeah, I think we need this right now. We've got so many things we need. It's going to have to be really looked at hard. And the solution, if it comes up, is going to have to be manageable with inside the debt that we have, I think.
Good point, that managing within the debt that we have, almost always that means raising taxes. Is that something you're for or against?
I've been knocking on over 500 doors already. And you talk to the people, the last thing they want is more money out of their pocket. You know, the economy right now, especially with gas prices the way they are and everything, yeah. It counts. Every little bit counts. Yeah. So no, I would do what I can to stop any type of tax raises right now. I think it's important and not raise the debt. I mean, we really got to just tighten down the belt and see where it is that we can be more efficient and cut out some of that overburdened money.
Have you looked at the current budget and identified anywhere you would make cuts?
I think using some technology could help streamline some things and some of the services that we bring and provide. But it's going to be that's something that we're really it's going to take a good 3 or 4 months of really hard looking. I hope one of the two that get in as mayor. I hope. And I think I've listened and I've talked to at least Mary before. I haven't had a chance to talk to Andy yet, but I really think they are on that same page of really like opening the books and seeing, okay, where exactly are we? And we need to be transparent and find the nickels and pennies that will help us with that.
The hospital sale. I'm throwing you no softballs today.
Please don't.
The hospital sale, obviously it's a big talk. What's your position on that as it moves through the legislature? Do you want to see it sold? Would you like to see it sold to whom if it does? What would you do with the funding, et cetera?
Yep. I think that's going to be one of the most important decisions we make in the next 4 years. And I like to say 4 years because that's not a decision you make in 6 months. You really need to find out, we have the people in place right now, costly a little bit, but the place right now where they're finding out how much that actually is worth, and we need to do that research and figure that out. Once we know and the rules get passed where we can keep that money into a fund where we're the stewards of that money, then yes, that's a possibility. But first and foremost, for goodness sake, let's talk to the people of Williamson County. Let's not all of a sudden show up and say, hey, by the way, we might be selling a hospital, which is, again, I've knocked on over 500 doors. That's how some of these folks feel. They feel like it was literally like selling, that's a big community piece. It's emotional issue. So I think first and foremost, let's talk and find out what they want. And then once we have the answers, we can give them what's best for everybody.
Little bit of a difficult question because your opponents are not currently in the room, but what differentiates you from those you are running against right now?
I think my background. I'm used to hard questions. I'm used to having to come up with answers where it doesn't seem like there's a good positive answer for anything. I don't mind that position. And then also, I'm a grassroots funded person. I don't take money from any PAC. If I get money in my account of donations, it's from people that I know. It's from people that I meet that say, yeah, I appreciate what you're fighting for, and here's a couple dollars to help do that. And I have no connection whatsoever to any other, the county commission, Franklin Boma, or any other political anything right now. It's just, I'm just here to represent the people of District 4 because I think that's what's important.
Speaking of District 4, what are you hearing or what do you think is the most important issue in that particular district?
I think we go back to the responsible growth. I think everybody is really feeling that the county is getting tighter. I mean, people having to take an extra 15 minutes to and from work that's 2 miles away. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's tough. And you add if anybody's having to travel up to Nashville or something like that, that's, why is that happening? Well, I think it has to do with the planning and how we've actually planned and when we've looked at planning and just used a micro version of what's going on instead of actually getting back and looking at that macro version. So, and if you talk to the folks in the rural part of the county, it's the annexation and bringing that growth out towards what is the most historical part of Williamson County, which is the horses and the cows and the open space.
On that same lines, the other night I asked the mayoral candidates how they felt about smart cities and the outside influences coming into, say, Franklin or Nolensville. Even Columbia is getting hit now with this. where outside influences are coming in and saying you need to be more like a smart city. Everything has to be walkable, and we want big city transit options and that sort of thing. So I'll pose that question to you too. That was one that on social media I got a lot of feedback on, saying, yeah, I'm glad you talked about that. So what's your take on smart cities, and at the county commission level, what can you do to either thwart it or help it?
I think there should be a little bit of everybody, right? If you live downtown and can walk around and get your groceries and go eat and still live there without having to pull out your car, well, shoot, you're saving money and gas right there, and it's a fun environment to live. McEwen North, same type of thing, right? Where you got all those great resources all right together. That's great. Making it a 15-minute city, I don't like the intrusion of any type of overwatch or any type of surveillance type of thing. I think if you want to make a community that's walkable and much like Berry Farms or something like that, I think that's great, and there's always people for that. But I don't think the push to make it an interconnected, woven thing. No, we like our open spaces. We like our trails. We like to be able to decide whether we want to get in a car or not. I think that's important.
This is the last of the long form questions, and then I'm going to start rapid fire shooting some things at you.
Okay. Shooting, you can't say that to a former police officer.
Sure. The Chamber of Commerce. Lots of chambers of commerce, I mean, more than 7,000 of them across the U.S. are funded primarily through member dues. In Williamson County, we decided to do things a little differently, and we actually fund Williamson Inc. to the tune of $400,000 a year, plus they still get member dues. It's an unusual situation, and unlike most chambers of commerce across the U.S., do you think that's an appropriate business model? Do you like it? Would you push to change it? Would you like to see it changed? Give me your opinion on that.
One of the biggest job indicators in a healthy economy is small businesses. If small businesses can run and small businesses can grow, then you know your economy is working, and it helps bring that family community feel to a community, right? Where you can go to your small business, you know everybody that's coming in, and then you can get home in time to still coach the kids' soccer game, right? I think that's great. And if they're going to help do that, then I think we support that. But when you're bringing in government funds, then it needs to be 100% transparent. We don't hide anything, and we let everybody know this is what we're funding, and this is why we're funding it, and this is how we're funding it. And if the people that are giving the money to do that get a say, and if the Chamber of Commerce feels that's not the way it should work, or they have a problem with that, then either the money's got to go, or they have to change and say, yeah, the people get a say on it. So.
Okay. All right. Are you ready for rapid question?
Rapid questions.
Rapid questioning.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're looking for yes or no's. I'm looking for specifics, and give me just a sentence or two to where you stand. President Donald Trump has asked all states to tighten up election systems through precinct voting, one-day election days, and paper ballots, none of which Tennessee, specifically Williamson County, does. We do have a paper ballot, however, it's fully
automated.
Yes, automated from the beginning to the end, and there's not a lot of checks and balances there. Would you support paper ballots?
100%. I think if you actually look at the actual written laws back in the 1800s, you might find some problems with the way we've been doing elections. So I think it's the safest and the most confident way of somebody who's been on the other side wants to see.
How about precinct voting?
Yes.
So how do you feel about the weeks of voting prior to the election? Do you prefer one day?
Well, I think there's always a reason to have an alternate because, we can't always get to it. It's a busy world, so I would prefer at least one or two, but not necessarily weeks.
Would you support a policy to stop increasing net debt until debt falls below a defined threshold?
That's such a big topic. I wouldn't be able to say yes or no, but I would lean more towards a yes than a no on that for sure.
Fair enough. If you had a choice between more debt or a tax increase, kind of on the spot, which way are you going?
I think we got a AAA bond rating. We get great interest rates. I would have to lean more debt just because, again, on the knocking on the doors, they've said I can't pay any more taxes.
Sure. Would you support a change in how Williamson County manages growth? I think we've touched on that. But if your answer is yes, you'd support it, give me the top 3 things that you want to see happen.
I would like change. I would like the annexation problem fixed. I don't think it's resolved correctly. I would like to see a bigger macro view of development, and I would like to see us bringing in developers that are more local than people that are from multi-billion, trillion-dollar agencies. I'd like to keep that local.
Excellent. Okay, so touched on all the big issues, right? I asked you what the top issue is in your district. If you had to say these are 3 things I want to do as quickly as possible if elected, what are the 3 things you want to do? Not necessarily what the issues are, but specifically what would you do?
First and foremost, I'd like to try to mend the divide between us and the municipalities. I think we got to sit down in a room, hash it out, and come to an agreement, or at least know where everybody stands. So I don't think that's working right now. The other thing is transparency and communication with the community. So I think if we're out there talking to people and having more community, that's what this government's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be where we make decisions for them, tell them, hey, this is what we did. It is, hey, what is it you need and what do you want from us? And then we bring that out, that type of thing. And then I think, again, we look hard at the state of Tennessee and what it is they're providing or not providing as far as schools and those other taxes that I mentioned earlier, and see if we can get some of that back to help our own debt that we've incurred.
Businesses like moving into Williamson County. It's a great place to be. Obviously, the state is more than happy to give them tax breaks for doing so. Where do you stand on tax breaks for businesses moving into Williamson County?
You have to be very careful with that. But at the same time, if you look at In-N-Out, right? Great family-oriented business, right? They're getting a tax break, okay? But are they helping out our tax base? Yeah. So I think you have to be able to really look at, are they going to bring something in that's worth the value as far as their own employees and the people that are living here in order to do something like that. I'm not opposed to it because I think having good companies like that here, and we can pull them from somewhere else, I think that just makes a better community. But at the same time, if we do that, it has to have an end date to it, and it shouldn't be a 10-year. It should be closer to like a 2 or 3 year type of a thing.
Okay. So that concludes our question and answer. Time flies by when we're just rapidly going through all the questions. But before we close, we want to make sure you have the opportunity to give your last pitch here. You have, I'll give you 90 seconds to address the voters and closing statement here. What would you say to convince them at the last stage in this election race?
I would say, please contact me. I've got a website with a phone number and an email on it. Let me know what it is that's your concerns, and we can talk about how I think I should help you solve that problem, because it's them helping me solve the problem, not just me going up there and making decisions for them. And I think some of the issues we have is, again, just responsible growth, really getting that right and getting it taken back and given to the community to help them decide what it is that we think we need, and keeping someone's own rights to their property, but not changing the rules for necessarily one property owner where it affects everybody else around it. And I think that, again, the debt's a big issue and the hospital's a big issue. So we need to really have somebody in that spot that understands what it takes to make a hard decision, or to bring that community in and communicate and talk to people and make the decisions that's best for them.
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing this today. We really appreciate it.
I've had a lot of fun. I appreciate it too.
We appreciate everyone watching at home. This is the Williamson County Republican Party asking you to please get out and vote. Take friends, take neighbors, take family. Get out on May 5th or earlier if you so choose with the early voting process. But we do hope that this encourages you to not only vote, but to look into who you're voting for. We very much appreciate you watching. We'll hope you'll tune in to the other districts and the other candidates that are running to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.